Hey everybody, it's Tim from Geek Branch, and we just got some new information about where Stargirl Season 2 will be filming. Let's get to the root of that. Alright, so recently, Luke Wilson, who plays Pat Dugan in Stargirl, had an interview with Yahoo Entertainment. And it was all encompassing around Season 1 and a little bit about Season 2, since we all know that it's been renewed recently. I must say I am an absolute fan of this new show. I love its uplifting message. I love how it's pacing itself right now. There's a little bit of things I don't like how the new Wildcat looks like essentially a female Black Panther and things like that. And then also there's a few other character issues that I have, but overall, this is one of the strongest shows DC's come out with in a long time. So there's been a lot of hype around this show with a lot of us that love DC shows. Also, you know, Stars and Stripes was a really good series as well, a good comic series that Jeff Johns had created. If you haven't read any of the comics, you should check it out. If you haven't watched the show yet, I recommend checking it out. But let's get into this interview. At the end, there is some pretty interesting information that he shares about the filming location and everything. So first of all, it goes on about, hey, how does Jeff actually get you to play this character? Luke Wilson is not some small name actor. He's been around, he's done a lot of stuff. And so it was really surprising to see him come and do this show. He's never done a superhero show before. And if you don't know who Luke Wilson is, you might know his younger brother, Owen Wilson. I prefer Luke myself. They're both great actors, both great in comedy and different things that they have done. They both have done various indie films and really have proved themselves as good actors. Anyways, back with this interview, apparently Jeff and Luke really connected because apparently they both came to LA around the same time, and they really bonded. And so also, since they bonded, he really sat down and read this character and really liked how he wasn't necessarily a superhero, but he was the equipment manager for superheroes. And so they go on about that for a good little bit, which you see that Pat gets kind of reminded multiple times in the show that he's not a hero, he's just a sidekick. Even with his stepdaughter, he is still the sidekick to the superhero. So he deals with that a lot, which is pretty funny. They also talk about in the interview how he got to actually kind of give the creators suggestions for episodes, and they actually listened to him. They were actually willing to listen to his suggestions, which is always great when they actually listen to an actor that actually knows what they're talking about. I mean, not saying that all actors know what they're talking about, but there's some that have had plenty of years of experience from acting that's kind of picked up a thing or two, that's had some producing credits and different things, so they got some good ideas sometimes. And it seems like he's made some pretty good choices with some of the stuff that he spoke with them about. They also spoke briefly about how things are between him and Barbara, which is his wife, which is Courtney's mother, and he kind of reaffirms that their relationship might have seemed, after she found out about Stargirl, would have been rocky, but everything just goes 0 to 10 really fast for her world. She realizes that she has to really strap down and work alongside with the rest of them before she worries about everything else. They talk about how Stargirl's real father shows up, that it's not Starman. Spoiler alert, that was very obvious. He was never her father in the comics. They really are trying to stay faithful with a lot of elements from the comics, so I wasn't expecting that to be any different. So you see a lot of these different things. He complimented how the actor who plays her dad, Sam, actually kind of looks like Joel McHale. If you don't know who the actor is, his name is actually Jeff Stoltz. And he's been on a show that was only lasted for a season, but it has a lot of fans. It's called Enlisted. Apparently it was pretty funny. I never watched it. A lot of people liked it and really wanted a second season. I remember him, and I know, probably going to laugh at me for saying that I watched the show when I was a teenager or a preteen, whatever age I was, but I did watch Seventh Heaven, I know, and he was on there, so I always remember him for that. So we talk about that. They talk about Justin the janitor, who's actually Sir Justin the Shiny Knight. They go over all that. They go over a lot of things about the season finale and how he actually really loves being on this show, and how he actually enjoys watching the show every Tuesday night, and he gets family members calling him all the time saying they love it. It's all kinds of stuff, positive stuff about the show. So it's really great. Reason why I'm really reiterating about him talking positively about the show. Me and my friends were a little bit concerned when we found out that it was going to go primarily over to the CW and away from DC Universe, that maybe he would decide to step away from the show, because I remember really well that when Supergirl came over to CW, the woman from Ally McBeal, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but she played as Cat Grant, and she decided to leave the show after it came over to CW, probably because they couldn't afford her, or so she says. So me and my friends were really concerned about that, and then after reading about this article, he clearly has no plans of stepping away from the show, which is awesome, because CW, their budget compared to a lot of other channels is obviously much smaller than the others. But the two last little tidbits is that with season 2, a lot of us have been wondering about the production value between season 1 to season 2, because we all know that usually CW shows have a smaller budget than DC Universe shows. Now, of course, we'll see how long DC Universe lasts, which I will actually have a video probably within the week discussing, in my opinion, how DC Universe was purposely set up to fail, which we can get to that later. So please, I know this is midway through, but please subscribe and hit that notification bell, if you've liked the video so far. But please come back and watch that video. I'm doing some research on it. I'm connecting a lot of dots that really makes me feel like there was a lot of things that made it to where they knew from the get-go that DC Universe wasn't going to work, which we will get into. But thing is interesting about this situation is almost all the CW Arrowverse shows are all almost filmed in Vancouver. If I remember correctly, the only other one that is not filmed in Vancouver, in which they could have changed it since then, is Black Lightning. Black Lightning's first season was known for being a very strong season. A lot of people really enjoyed it. I didn't watch season 2, but a lot of people complained about that, so they said it was still a good show, but it just wasn't as good as the first season. But Stargirl was also filmed in Georgia, and Atlanta, Georgia, to be, precise. But Georgia is, I would assume, a more expensive place to film TV shows than Vancouver, Canada. I don't know that for sure. Can't say that, but from what I've seen and what I've read, it seems to be that could be the case. And if that's so, if they're deciding to stay in Georgia, they're showing their faith in the show, that they don't want to change locations, they want to change the sets, because they actually use parts of the town from Atlanta in different areas on the outskirts of it, and it would look very different the next season, I feel like, if they decided to go up into Canada and use those different towns instead of the town that they have been using for Blue Valley. But with that, also a thing that we have to remember, with a lot of the other Arrowverse shows, some of them use Jeff Johns' production company, but almost all of them use Bonanza's production. It's called Bonanza Productions. And I've noticed that while they both use similar budgets, it seems like Jeff Johns' company knows how to use that budget more wisely and use better equipment, is able to come out with better shots and stuff. I mean, if you watch Stargirl, that show looks great. It looks like high quality TV for sure, like Netflix quality TV. It's really shot well. I don't know who's in charge of that. I didn't research that deeply into it, but they do a great job. And it looks like all of the people who had recently worked on the first season is all coming back. The showrunner's coming back, Jeff Johns is coming back, all the people that were working on with their production crew is supposedly coming back. So that's really great. That really encourages me. This little article just kind of cemented my, basically making me feel better, because I would say cemented my concern about the show, but this interview didn't. What it did was it kind of ensured that, they had the big name actor that, kind of helps pull in viewers is staying around. And that does matter. Now, while the show doesn't get too many high viewers on CW, it is the CW, and we have to remember that. They usually don't get the CBS or the Fox type numbers. And then also they were splitting up their viewership from the people who use DC Universe and the people who watch on CW. And we don't exactly know how many subscribers there are to DC Universe. Even though it's dying, there's still a good bit of people still using it. And this last part was just a funny little tidbit. So the interviewer basically asked him, so you're not going to have to move to Vancouver, you're going to get to stay in Atlanta. And so he basically said that he doesn't believe that's the case. And he says that my brother Owen was actually 2 months into the Disney Plus Loki show, and then obviously they had to pause that because of the pandemic. So a little wholesome moment, he said, I really hope that when I get back to work, it'll be around the same time as my brother so we can have an apartment together. Because it'd be really funny because he'd be working on a Marvel project while I work on a DC project. And I thought that was pretty funny. Overall, though, I feel really confident about what they have put together for season 2. I've really enjoyed the first season, and I really can't wait to see what they decide to do with season 2. I hope CW doesn't try to do their usual cycle of putting too many things in one episode and has pacing issues where they have too many threads going in too many different directions. I hope they've learned their lessons from some of their other shows. Just kind of leaves Jeff Johns, his production crew, and the others that are involved to kind of do their own thing on this show and not try to bring her over to their universe. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening. And as I always say, thank you for letting me get to the root of my geek culture with you. Thanks, guys.